We have another case study. And the reason I like bringing these case studies, these are real life stories. These aren't made up stories about some fable entrepreneur who's had some success with outsourcing. These are case studies from clients who've made a decision to work with us. And I like to pick case studies where I really feel that there's been an impact that we can kind of measure. Antonio, first of all, thank you so much for taking some time out and sharing your experience. Let's start with what is it that you actually do?
I do a couple of things. My main bread and butter is I'm a real estate investor. I buy and sell real estate. I'm a house flipper. I also do short-term rentals, aka Airbnbs. So from the acquisitions, I cherry pick and I pick the properties that I really like that are actually going to produce and put them on the different platforms. And then thirdly, I'm also a speaker and a mentor. So I mentor other people, not just in the acquisition side of real estate, but also on the short-term rental side of real estate, showing people how to get started on their own journey in real estate.
Oh, great. And how long have you been doing that now?
Oh, I've been doing this for like about 12 years, more or less.
Oh, okay, good.
It's like 2011.
Great. And which part of the US are you in?
I am in Miami, Florida.
Let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to kind of what I call pre-VA. What was life like before you hired the VA, and what led you to making a decision that, hey, you know what, I should really hire a VA to see if I can, make some changes?
Okay, pre-VA, I basically had to do everything from contracting to finding the folks who I wanted to purchase the house from. Even before that, pulling the list, getting the lists ready, doing the marketing, reaching out to the homeowner. I had to deal with every aspect of the business. Like I said, the contracting, once I got the property under contract, I had to, manage the renovation while still doing everything else, right? Then I have to manage the disposition, looking at who it is that we're going to sell the property to, whether or not we're going to wholesale it, looking at the actual numbers of each deal, having to sit there and figure out what the comparables are, where I should sell the property, going through all these different scenarios when it comes to the entire business, really. I was pretty much overwhelmed. I'll be honest with you. I was overwhelmed. I was exhausted. I was near burnout because there were some days where I just wasn't in it. I wasn't as passionate about it as I know myself to be. So in general, I would say overwhelmed.
Was there ever a time that the overwhelm was leading to thoughts of, I want to do something different?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time. If there wasn't a day where I was like, man, I wish I could, just disappear, live a minimalist life in some country, those thoughts definitely creeped up all the time.
One of the things that I've been talking about, and I was teaching this on a networking event, is that the topic of pivot came up. So, and they're kind of glamorizing pivot. I said, look, hey, I believe that as a company, we do need to learn how to pivot. But I said, but in my experience, a lot of people pivot or change direction because they fall out of love with what they started. And the reason they fall out of love is because they find that 80-90% of that thing is what you call admin level work, right? It's the day-to-day grind, which is really not fun for anybody, right? And especially not for an entrepreneur who tend to be more creative, who wants to kind of focus on big picture things, who like to speak. And then so what they do is they go to another event, someone shines another dangling object. It looks better, right? Because it's always glamorized, selling you the concept. Yeah. So we leave the thing we've spent all our time building. We go start something new. We do that for a while, find out that is also 80% admin level work. Then we go to something else. And I see this cycle, and I can't imagine how much money and time and opportunity have been lost simply because people do resist delegation. So first of all, well done for identifying that, observing that. So tell me, what led to, obviously you were in overwhelm, but there's a difference between an overwhelm and then making a decision that, hey, let me try this out. So how did you cross that chasm?
Before I answer that, I just wanted to add something that I know a lot of people might resonate with. It's that, like, I already knew the answer, right? Like, I knew the answer was to provide the opportunity for others to get what they want inside of what it is that I needed to get done, And so, to answer your question, what was it that had me just make the decision was actually when I saw you speak at Marshall Silver's event. And your message was compelling. It was honest. And in general, the whole idea of the company and how you set it up was really attractive to me. because it wasn't just another VA company, which I had tried before, which I had already tried VAs before, but it was such a disaster that I had almost given up on it. I was like, no, it works for other people. Apparently it doesn't work for me. But the way that you presented it was compelling. It was like, you know what, I want to be a part of that. And on top of that, I want to get what I want out of it. So out of the opportunity that you're presenting, I'm able to create something for myself, for my family. And I think that was generally what really had me make the decision and just take the leap and decide to go with you and be Epic.
Thank you for sharing that. So fast forward, what is your VA doing for you now in the business?
I've been pretty rigorous in my training. That's one thing that I'm good at, is in being able to inspire others and get them well trained. And in this case, because Catherine also has the backing of Be Epic, along with the training that I'm providing, she's pretty much doing everything. And I can't say everything, because as far as the outgoing marketing, I have another VA taking care of that. In this case, what Kat takes care of is the contracting, coordinating with the sellers. I'll give you an example. Once I go out and speak to a homeowner and we decide, okay, this is going to be the deal, what I do is that I'll contact Catherine. I'll be like, hey, I need you to get a contract ready for such and such amount. It's an equity deal or it's a short sale deal. She already knows the type of contract she needs to prepare. She gets it ready. She sends it out to the homeowner. She basically does most of that. I don't want to call it like the technical aspect, but she does a lot of the work I am not attracted to. And the funny thing is that because of the test that she took prior to getting hired, I knew that her personality type was the right type of person that I needed for this job, right? She likes spreadsheets. She likes the contracts. She likes doing all that stuff. Whereas I'm like, my eyes go cross-eyed whenever I look at a spreadsheet, right? It's hard for me as an individual to really sit there and analyze that information when it's all in front of you. Not saying that I can't do it, because I was doing it. It took so much work. It took so much battery life out of my battery that at the end, I ended up with very little battery life for myself. And Kat is doing that. She's coordinating probate. She talks to the attorneys. I basically handed off everything to her. And again, not everything, but a lot of the work that I was not good at, I've given it to her.
Yeah, some key roles there, right? But you mentioned something, and I want to emphasize this: training. We do our best to match a VA to the client's criteria, right? We don't take newbies, we take people who've already got some experience, but it doesn't mean that the onus is not on us, you, to provide that training, right? We want to basically take someone who's got the best possible experience, but they still have to understand how we want things done. And far too often, a lot of clients try and bypass this. They don't want to invest the time, and then they complain about not getting the results. And I say, show me your training. How it's I thought you guys provide training. So no, we provide you a VA that we feel is going to be a good fit for the role. But like any company, there's always an onboarding process. I mean, even your Inc. 500 companies, they'll take the top graduates and put them through a rigorous onboarding training. The military takes somebody with potential and puts them through a rigorous training.
But I want to add something to that. I've been through my own rigorous training before, in specifically in a company where I was a cold caller, and it was like the best training, the best sales training I've ever had. And I went from being literally like the worst agent, and no lie, the very last agent out of 250 people, to the very top agent, and not by a little bit, but by far, right? So I'm a big believer in training. And more importantly, what I've discovered through having VAs is that now my business doesn't depend on me as far as the amount or the quality of work that I produce, but it really depends on how effective of a leader I am and how well I can manage the ship. How well can I tell everybody else what to do, and how do I keep them inspired? It's like it's almost like, I don't want to say it's a whole new job, but it's a whole new realm of the business that I had yet to discover. Now, I'm a naturally good leader, I think, and I'm obviously biased, but even inside of that, I still do my own training and development with my own business coach. I still do some of the work with your company, right? And I'm constantly learning now to become a better leader versus how else, what else can I say to the homeowner, or how else can I speed up this process? Even though those are still questions, the main thing is me being the leader of this ship.
A question I always, when people first come to us, they'll use a phrase like, I want a great VA, I want a rock star VA, I want one of the best VAs. And I never say this, but I really what I want to say is, are you a great entrepreneur? Are you a best leader? Are you a rock star at what you do? I never ask, but you get the idea, right? It's like if you expect that of your team, expect that when it set the standard.
Correct.
Set the standard of being that great. If you're not good at training, go learn how to train. If you're not good at managing, go learn how to manage, right? We can't expect to hire any team member, whether it's somebody who's $100 per hour or $5 per hour, to just come in and magically start doing things for us without that guidance from us. Mm-hmm. So the more we invest in ourselves, in leadership, management, communication, the better the result we're going to get from our team, and VA or otherwise.
Yeah, and also I just want to mention, it being 100% transparent and real. I mean, it hasn't been without its own challenges. I've had moments where my VAs were not happy with my leadership, or they were not happy with how rigorous I was being. So let's with both.
So let's unpack that. So what happened? How did you deal with that? Because oftentimes the client comes to me and says, "Hey, my VA." They don't usually come and say the VA is not happy with me. They usually come with the complaint about the VA. Mm-hmm. So we have to kind of help audit. Well, what happened? What's the breakdown? And that's part of what the service we provide, right? We've been doing this for at this point almost 15 years, so we understand why breakdowns happen. So we have to kind of audit the client side and audit the VA side. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say, often it's about an 80-20. 80% of the time, I can find fault in how the client has been managing their VA. Clients don't like to be told that, so we have to kind of find a roundabout way of telling the clients, because not every client's open for feedback. But in your case, how did you handle, the VA not being quite happy with what you were doing?
I mean, the first thing that I did was I took responsibility, right? This is my company. I'm the captain. I'm the one steering the ship. So therefore, I need to take responsibility for whatever shows up. That was the first thing I did. And then the second thing I did, I reflected on what the VA was communicating to me, right? And I also reflected on not just what they were saying, but the way they were acting, and it was clear to me that what I was doing wasn't as effective as I wanted it to be. What I realized for myself was that my communication, and I know it's business, but it was lacking in compassion, it was lacking in patience, and just that's not the type of leader that I want to be. I want to be the type of leader that cares about their people, right? That makes sure that what this person is trying to achieve through this position, that they actually get the chance to do it, and that when they do something that's either, I don't want to call it wrong, but something that's not right, something that wasn't exactly like I told them to do it, instead of me turning around and being like, hey, WTF, why is this wrong? But really sitting there and being like, okay, explain to me. Let's look at how we get this. I want to know how you're thinking about this. So therefore, then we can make little adjustments in a caring and compassionate way, versus just like cracking the whip and be like, hey, work. It just doesn't work like that, with humans. It's detrimental, not only to the person who's working for me, but it's detrimental in general for myself and for the company. That's just not the way that I want to run this. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned, is that when people make mistakes, number one, they're human, and number two, they're not doing it because, like on purpose, right? They're not doing it for a lack of responsibility or a lack of commitment. It just really is a mistake, and it's my job to go in there in a very compassionate way and try to figure that out with them, versus being like against them. I think that's the biggest thing that changed, and it really has changed it's changed the whole company. It's changed the way that I lead folks, and now I'm actually looking to expand, because now I see different markets, and now I have the experience as a leader, and I know I could be really effective. Now, I mean, I know it's cliche, but now it's about scaling.
I love that. I just love hearing the fact that you've gone through, you've hired the one team member, couple, then expanded to a couple, and now you're really thinking about, hey, this is working. I can actually start thinking about scale now versus just delegating a few tasks, which is awesome. I just literally wrote to one of our clients today that what served me well in, again, 14 and a half years of doing this, VAs make mistakes. Don't get me wrong, right? And anyone watching, they're human. You know, we hold ourselves, we do it, they do it, right? So it's going to happen. However, before I kind of go to a VA and say, hey, you did this wrong, there's always a question I ask myself, which is how did I create that? Is the simplest form of the question, right? Maybe it was not on me, but quite often I will find a flaw in my instructions, in my SOP, in my direction. If I go back and say, what did I actually ask the VA to do? Oh, that's why, right? There's usually something missing in how I communicated my request. Maybe I was rushed and just sent a quick text and didn't clarify, right? And then you can say, well, isn't the VA's job to clarify? Yes, but the source is still me, right?
Correct. You're responsible.
You can't keep passing the buck. And again, being open, you might find that, hey, I've audited myself, and I literally call it a self-audit. Okay, did I ask the right questions? Did I provide instructions? Was I clear about my communication? Did I meet with the VA to give them a verbal overview of what needs to be done, right? If I pass all my audit, then I go to the VA and say, great, let's look at what the VA did. Did they clarify they understood the thing? Well, they didn't. They just went ahead and just did it. Okay, well, I want to then teach my VA, hey, when I give you an instruction, if there's anything that feels amiss or that you're not sure about, ask me, right? But shouldn't a VA just know this stuff? No, they're not mind readers, right? They are implementers of what we do. So we don't have to we should never use assumptions in our management techniques when it comes to with the VA. So, okay, great. This is really good. Now, you mentioned there's obviously challenges that can come up, and you've navigated these challenges. For somebody who's let's go with this question. For somebody who's thinking about hiring a VA, right? And maybe they're kind of afraid of, what does that look like? Will the VA, can I trust my VA? Will this really work for me? Kind of what you were going through. What would you say to them?
It's definitely a learning process. You will grow to trust your VA. My VA, I think the only thing she doesn't have access to are my bank accounts. Because at one point I was just like, just pay yourself. Like, I don't even want to take care of that, right? Like, here's the password and just pay yourself, or you should pay yourself, right? I haven't done that because I've been advised against it. Not that I don't trust my VA.
I want to echo what you just said here. It's not about trust. In this day and age, it's so easy for other people to hack into anything, right? And I never want to put my team in a place that I have to cast a shadow of doubt on them, because they may have nothing to do with it, right? Computers, even our computers, are vulnerable, right? And the first thing we think of is my VA did it. It's just natural, right? We want to go and blame somebody else for something that's happened. And so I always say, hey, look, don't put your VA in a compromising situation where even if it's not their fault, they're going to take the blame. And you're going to have no one else to blame because the person who actually did it is invisible to you. So obviously finance is the big one, right? Now, my VAs have access to my Stripe account, and they have a lot of access. But the one thing they can't do is take money out of my bank accounts, right?
Correct.
So that's the one part. And everything else, they can almost have what's a carte blanche or whatever it's called, right? But I don't want to ever put them in a compromised situation where I have to second guess. And my VA has been working with me. I've been working with my primary VA since 2009, right? My EA, I've been working with now for 2-3 years. So I literally family
it turns into like a family. Correct.
Right. And again, we never want to put a family member in that situation where we have to second guess what happened. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, for people out there wanting to make the leap, let me tell you that now it's a learning process. Just like I said, it's a process where more than the VA, you have to look at yourself, and you have to be real with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. And regardless of what happens, you have to take responsibility. Again, this is my company. It's not their company, it's my company. I mean, it's our company in the sense that we're basically like a family now, and they're really, I don't know what the word is, they're really inspired by what the goals are. Another thing that I've done is make sure that our core values are clear and set, and that the goals going forward, basically the KPIs are very clear as well, because they need to know what they need to strive for, right? Which is critical, because then allows me to look at, okay, let's say you were supposed to get 3 deals these 3 months, a contract per month. Let's look at what happened last month. Like, where can we adjust what you're saying? Where can we, change maybe the phone numbers, whatever it is, right? It creates an opportunity for excellence, which is actually one of the company's core values is excellence. It's not perfection. It's doing as many things perfectly as we can, right?
Love.
So that's a big part of it. I would tell somebody that's thinking about joining or thinking about getting VAs, do it because now I have more time for myself. I have more time for my family. Sometimes I find myself with actual free time where I'm like, I don't have anything to do, and it's weird. It's strange because I'm so used to doing everything that sometimes when I have that free time, I feel like I'm not pushing the company forward. I gotta get to work. I gotta busy bee. Pun intended, right? But even that, you learn to appreciate that free time now because it's a decision that you made for exactly that. It's to free yourself up. I've gone to the beach more often. I have time to go to the doctors. I have time to go to the gym and not be worried, about what it is that needs to happen. And not only that, it also gives me the free time for free thinking, just letting my mind wander, where usually I'm like, no, I can't wander. I have to focus. And now it's like I can be more of myself rather than try to fit myself into the president, the CEO box. Now I could be whatever kind of CEO I want.
Awesome. We do, as you said, we do our best. We've done our best to bridge the gaps that we've seen in over a decade of doing this, right? We've seen what are some of the issues that clients deal with, what are some of the issues that VAs, deal with. How do we bridge this gap? How do we provide the support that we know both sides of this equation need to make this a successful relationship? But the X factor is the client. So I just want to really say thank you for being a great client, because again, you have to have a little bit of patience. You've got to go through a little bit of the learning curve. You've gone through all of that. You've done everything how we've advised in our week-to-week support calls that we provide for our clients. And you've implemented, you've taken action, you've implemented. And from what you've shared, I just love hearing the net result of what you've been able to achieve with hiring a virtual assistant. Okay, sum it up in 3 bullet points. 1, 2, 3 bits of advice for somebody who's either about to hire a VA, they've hired a VA and maybe not got the success they want, or somebody who's just looking to scale, because you've touched all 3 points today.
Yeah, so in 3 bullet points. So the question was to summarize my experience in 3 bullet points to someone who...
Exactly, yeah.
To someone who's on the fence or who's already doing it but struggling, right? Well, number 1 is take responsibility, right? Don't blame your VA. Never blame, period. What I was talking about earlier about compassion and patience is just not in business. I know we're talking about business and our companies and whatnot, but I would say it just transcends everything, whether it's family relationships, romantic relationships, business relationships. Coming to the table with compassion for the other person is such a big deal. And you're taking responsibility for what's going on in your company. I would say the second thing would be give your A the opportunity, right? But give them the opportunity in a way that inspires them, right? And what I mean by that is by actually sitting there and finding out who this other human being is. Meaning, do they have a family? Where are they with their family? Like, I know Kat has 2 kids and she has a fiance and she has these big goals in her life with purchasing a property and like all these things that are going on in her life, which if I didn't ask about it, she wouldn't really tell me that because she's there to work, right? But now even she tells me, sometimes she goes to me, she tells me, man, I feel like I can talk to you. I know that this is a business relationship, but because you've opened up to me, I feel like I can open up to you. And she tells me, I'm so grateful for being here because I see, and because of the level of work that I give her, we're talking about like top level work. This is not like, oh, I need you to like just scrub a list or pull a list. No, this is like, coordinating probates, documents, contacting sellers, following up. That's basically what I do. And so she feels so accomplished. I would say that's the next thing, like allow your VA to take on some of those responsibilities that you would otherwise think, oh no, I have to do that. Find a way to give them that. And I would say thirdly, which is the bottom line, again, pun intended, is you're going to make way more money. You're going to make way more money and you're going to be way more happy. Like this year's going to be the best year I've had so far in my entire career. And it's all due to giving up. Yeah, seriously. I'm like, my whole family is excited. We're all excited, right? I have just with 3 properties we have right now on the market, we're netting almost close to $500,000. So it's like, I haven't done $500,000 yet, but now I see we're not even halfway through the year.
That's awesome.
Yeah. basically allowing yourself to give this responsibility to others. I think one of the biggest things that I had to get over, one of the biggest hurdles was like, oh no, I have to do it. And I realized that I don't have to. What I have to do is have good training programs and again, be compassionate with my VAs so that they feel they're in a safe environment to grow professionally.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Antonio, this is gold. I mean, this is literally gold. I'm going to use my megaphone and share this with everybody because this is a perfect, you've touched so many key points today on the principles of working with a VA. First of all, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your experience, your successes. I hope whoever sees this is inspired to take that leap of faith, hire the first VA, or even if you have a VA and you're not getting the results, come to us, ask us. We'll see if we can help you. Even if you don't have one of our VAs, let's see how we can help you. And maybe down the road, you may end up hiring one of our VAs. Antonio, wish you continued success. Of course, whenever you need us, here for you. But again, have a wonderful rest of the weekend, the year, and we'll chat to you real soon.
No problem. Thank you for the invite. It's an honor to be on this interview. And thank you for setting up this company. You know, I eternally am grateful, and I'm just looking forward to this now, to like the scaling part of the business. Now it's a matter of just getting more people, doing better trainings. And not only that, giving the people that I have now on the ground floor, giving them the opportunity to grow vertically in my company as well. So I'm super excited. I mean, I don't know that I could be any more excited. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
All right. Take care. Thank you. That's awesome.